At a 54th birthday dinner in New York, he had spoken English for the first time in public.
Dear friends, I was so covered with flowers that it's very difficult for me to bring to you my humble words. But I do it in German. Die Bedeutung der Jerusalemer Universität für das jüdische Volk.
Jerusalem University has particular meaning now. Jews in Europe are being extensively denied access to education and the professions. Over the years, I have read and heard much of this sorrow. It is not easy to say where the western boundaries of Europe are to be found. Einstein made one more trip to England that summer. He went into seclusion. The Nazis put a price on his head. In London, he made a last speech to Europeans before he left for Princeton. His personal despair for mankind was apparent.
I am glad that you have me given the opportunity of expressing to you here my deep sense of gratitude as a man, as a good European, and as a Jew.
Mais fácil agir sobre a natureza por nosso conhecimento, o que foi a desintegração do átomo, do que agir sobre nós mesmos. É uma palavra que filósofo da antiguidade podia ter dito se conhecia a desintegração do átomo, porque é uma maxime de sabedoria universal esta, que é mais fácil agir sobre as coisas do mundo externas do que sobre si mesmo.
Despite being a tireless peace and freedom advocate against wars, Nazism, Macartism, a letter to President Roosevelt written by Einstein had an important role at the American decision to start building the atomic bomb. In Einstein's opinion, was this his biggest mistake in life?
First of all, I don't think it had such an important role as often suggested. If you read the memoirs of people who were involved at the time, you see that it really did not have that great an effect. And it's interesting how Einstein became involved. He was at the Solvay Congresses in Belgium in the 1930s, and, well, started much earlier, but he became friendly with the Belgian royal family, the King and Queen of Belgium, and it was because of that that Leo Szilard and Edward Teller approached him, because at that time one of the main sources of uranium in the world was the Belgian Congo in Africa, and they were afraid the uranium supply would fall into German hands. Mm-hmm. So they wanted the royal family to do something to prevent this. Then they decided they were all foreigners living in the United States. They can't communicate with the foreign government, or it will be looked upon like, you know, some sort of treason. So they decided they had to send a letter to President Roosevelt, alerting him to the dangers of the atomic bomb being made by the Germans. So that was, as he says later on, that was his sole contribution, was to sign this letter, which essentially was drafted by these others who knew more about the facts of atomic possibilities of atomic weapons, because they knew the letter from Einstein would get Roosevelt's attention. But he certainly regarded it as afterwards as a great mistake in the sense of its consequences, but he said, what else could I do? What would have happened if the Germans had gotten the atomic weapon? We're very lucky because Hitler forced out the best German scientists out of Germany. If those scientists had stayed in Germany, they might well have developed the nuclear weapons first. You know, what that could have meant for the world.
The character of this development lies in its apparently compulsory trend. Every step appears as an unavoidable consequence of the preceding one. In the end, there beacons more and more clearly general annihilation.
Einstein made several famous statements, among them, God does not play dice with the world, with the universe, and science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind. Did he believe in God? How did he see religion?
Religion for him was somebody once I think a group of American women were incensed about Einstein being admitted to the United States. They felt he was a godless atheist, and they sent him a telegram, "Do you believe in God?" He said, "I believe in the God of Spinoza." Now, if you know the God of Spinoza has nothing to do with human hopes and desires.
A única coisa que eu posso dizer de Deus, diz Spinoza, é que a natureza, na toda a sua potência e beleza, isso é Deus. Deus é a natureza. Então, Einstein tinha exatamente a mesma concepção e se refere a Spinoza. Então, a religiosidade para ele é esse sentimento na frente da natureza ou das realizações que se encontram na natureza, como o homem quando ele tem valor, quando ele deixa se revelar seus valores.
Religion for Einstein is the guarantee that the universe is lawful. For example, why do you do a crossword puzzle? Because you think there's a solution, right? For Einstein, the universe is a puzzle, right? Why do you work on finding the laws of the universe? Because you believe that the universe is lawful. That, for him, was what he calls cosmic religion.
How was the importance of Princeton in his life?
It was a haven for him. In Berlin, he was sort of at the center of things. He was more of an insider than he ever was in his life, and he was consulted on every issue in political, social, scientific issues. When, in 1932, he came to Caltech, and Caltech offered him a half-year position. He was considering that, but then he heard about this new institute set up in Princeton, Institute for Advanced Study, which was a pure research institute, and the head of the institute, Abraham Flexner, came to him and explained the idea, and Einstein liked the idea very much. So he agreed to spend a half a year there before the Nazis came to power in 1932. He was going to go back and forth, half year in Berlin, half year in Princeton. Then when the Nazis came back, it became clear to him he could not go back to Germany. So he resigned from the Academy of Sciences. The Academy of Sciences in Berlin expelled him. So he had to have a position someplace else, and of course the Institute for Advanced Study was delighted to have him stay on there. And I think he liked the fact that he could lead a more reclusive life there. He was quiet, and he could have a more normal existence there. But even there, problems would arise. Sometimes people would walk up to him in the street just on the strength of recognizing him and start talking to him, and he would be nice and charming. Then he would remark, a friend of his told me, after he would say, "Well, the elephant has gone through his tricks again." He felt like the circus elephant on show.
For how long did he live in Princeton?
Oh, from 1933 until he died, 1955, so 22 years.
Where are Einstein's?
He never went back to Europe. I mean, it's, again, a sign of his emotional detachment. He had a son, you know, he was divorced from his first wife. He had two sons. One moved to the United States, and he saw that son fairly often. The other son was actually mentally disturbed and ended up in a mental institution in Switzerland. And the son felt very neglected by the father and blamed the father, but the father never went back to Switzerland to see him again. He had a friend of his in Switzerland go and visit the boy and take him out and so forth and so on, particularly after the mother died, but he never went back.
So he was not a good father?
I would not say so. No. He was a good father when the occasion came, but he could distance himself when I would have found it difficult to do that. If I had a mentally disturbed child, to just cut loose, I would find difficult. Yeah. As he got older, he became more and more solitary. Yes, I think so. For example, he was very engaged politically, but as one of his assistants whom I met later on told me, he could go to sleep at night no matter what happened.